I just was reading recently, though. You gotta be careful eating from people. I always knew that, but I get why. Because a lot of the things that people use for witchcraft, they use in food. Like cinnamon, nutmeg, all these different stuff. I didn't know that a lot of witches, they kitchen witches. You gotta be careful. But good thing none of that stuff works on me. Yeah, voodoo, witchcraft, none of that work on me. Yeah. I was possessed before that. When I was like 19. Once I overcame that and was able to fill myself with the Holy Spirit, and I got spiritually awakened and enlightened, that shit don't work on me no more.
So in my previous video, Lloyd Banks' baby mama Christina was basically trying to expose Banks for being somewhat of a narcissist. She claims that he was emotionally mistreating her behind the scenes, kind of taking advantage of her financially, because she claims that he was living at her house at the time and helping him with all the bills, and that she was also the one helping him with his merchandise and website when it first launched. And she kind of also claims that Lloyd Banks was neglecting her behind the scenes. Now, she also claims that this wasn't so much about child support and co-parenting, because Banks does take care of his kids.
But you're traditionally a private person, right? And I noticed like on Cody 1,
very much.
You have your son featured on the cover.
Right.
Why was that like a decision that you chose to put him on there?
My kids, my son that's my world right there. Like, I just like when I just look at him, I just look at if I ain't get anything else right, I got that right there. And like I said, I know my fans, man, they're in a different space, and I think it's important to show me as a father.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So your kids are the only thing keeping you alive.
Yeah.
Right?
But it was more about the emotional turmoil that she claims that she endured during their 20-plus years relationship. She got to a boiling point and started opening up about how Lloyd Banks was a man who was distant, emotionally unavailable, and somewhat of a narcissist who was often absent when it mattered most, not just to her, but to their children, and treated her more like a burden than a partner or co-parent. She talked about him making broken promises, talked about his cold communication tactics, and years of her feeling invisible, not just to the public, but also to him, the man who helped to bring two lives into this world. And to be fair, now Christina, aka Alicia Christina, doesn't really have a squeaky clean image herself. Now, I've been going down a rabbit hole and reading some discussion forums lately that kind of painted Christina, aka Alicia Christina, as a not so innocent bystander herself. Now, a lot of the forums talked about her being an alleged scammer, a former stripper, possibly even a jump off. She even claimed that Juelz Santana from the rap group Dipset also tried to holler at her back in the days, because she said that she used to do low budget rap videos for them back in the days. This may also be why Banks may have allegedly been treating her the way that she claims that he has, and it might have been because of her reputation.
I'm gonna tell you guys this right now. I am sick and tired of you doppelganger, whatever the fuck it's called. You clone ass bitches that's running around with my old personality from 2008. Like, I'm not that person anymore. And a lot of you are running around with my old persona, who I'm far, far from that. And I feel bad. I really, really do. Really do. You need to do an evaluation and try to figure out why you keep trying to emulate someone else and not be yourself. It's never gonna work out for you in the long run. At all. At all.
Now, I don't know. At one point, she even mentioned that she was allegedly kidnapped at the G-Unit offices for days. She even posted a similar jacket that she claims that she had on at the time. It's like, girl, what is going on? So there's a lot of hidden stories, behind the scenes drama that we really don't know about from Tony Ayo allegedly hollering at her at the time back then when she was just a teenager, to now possibly even Joel Santana hollering at her. It's given jump off vibes. But, once her comments started making rounds, the fans were pretty much split down the middle. Some people defended Lloyd Banks by saying that she's just bitter, he moved on, and she's just mad. Nobody would even know her name if it wasn't for him, and that she's trying to tarnish his legacy and brand now that he's resurfacing musically, and that, maybe the money must be drying up now, and now she wants to be famous and looking for some attention. And to be fair, others did show some empathy towards her. Some people asked questions like, why now? What led to her finally speaking up after all these years? Why did she stay with him so long? And why did she ended up having not one, but 2 kids with him? And one thing was clear though, this wasn't just a one-sided rant. This was a decades-long disconnect that finally spilled over. Now, before we get into what Lloyd Banks might have allegedly responded with to Christina's allegations, let's go back a bit. Now, I was looking at some of his previous songs and reading through some of his lyrics, and about 4 years before Christina spoke out, Lloyd Banks had released a song called Commitment off his Cody album. Now, at the time when I heard the song, it sounded like it was just another introspective track from the Punchline King himself. It was melodic. It sounded like it was more of a soft side of Lloyd Banks, maybe a song for the ladies. But now when you really go back and listen to the lyrics, the words kind of hit a little different now. He says in the very first verse that the blaming game is super lame. Who signs up just to suffer? He goes on to say, girl, your sex is everything. Don't mean a thing if you don't trust her. He lifted her up, dropped her, and broke her heart. And somewhere along the line, he must have had a karma visit. He goes on to say in the chorus that it's time that we have a talk about commitment. And he thought that with everything, it could be different. He thought that if he gave her some space, things would get better, but it didn't. 1 minute the situation is calm, next minute she's tripping. Now in the song, it sounds like Banks was talking about emotional detachment, maybe some guilt, almost like a man who knew he was being emotionally unavailable and admitting that he can't offer real stability, even if someone wants to love him through the chaos and being caught in a cycle he can't break out of, all while someone on the other end is begging for consistency. Sounds familiar, right? Right. Well, the timing of the release of that song almost feels like a subtle confession, especially now with what we know from Christina's perspective. It's almost like he knew what was brewing, and this was his way of owning the damage without fully saying her name. That he was, there's a lot of arguing. Maybe he wanted to give her some space and thought it would help, but it didn't make a difference. And, there's not a lot of communication. There's a lot of yelling. The relationship is not working if there's no one's listening to the other. So if you've been a fan of Lloyd Banks for many years now, you know that he's always been the quiet one of the group, the wordsmith, the brooding rapper in the shadow, if you may. And much of his catalog reflects that about not falling in love, avoiding vulnerability, and kind of playing the field while staying grounded and trusting no one. But in recent years, I noticed, especially in tracks like Commitment, that we're seeing a shift. Like, he's still distant, but now he's reflecting on why he may be distant. That there's been pain there's a lot of regret, and even some accountability in the silence. Now, this isn't just player Banks from back in the days anymore. This is a man clearly trying to navigate the wreckage of his past decisions and maybe trying to make peace with it in his own way. Now, on his newest album, All or Nothing 3, Despite My Mistakes, that dropped after his baby mama's comments caught fire, I went through some of the lyrics to a few of those songs that were available online, and one song stuck out to me, Traumatized. Now, in Traumatized, he doesn't name names, but the words, the emotions, it feels personal. Like just in the first verse, he says, have you ever had somebody you loved and they didn't love you back? You got to learn how to walk away. Ain't too much that can come from that. He goes on to say you grieving too. Feels like the more I get, the more I lose. He also says that he feels like he gets more flowers than hugs from rap, and that's effed up. He talks about, baby, I am who I am. I won't apologize. I'm finished. Issues all over. There's nothing finalized. Then he goes on to say that people do anything for some money, no second guessing, especially if they're down. Ish is dangerous in recession. The song seems more like he's questioning his relationships with certain people in his life that he loves, but they don't necessarily love him back or reciprocate those same feelings. Almost like saying that he feels like he's being used in certain situations, especially when people are down and out and needs a handout. So now the question becomes, is Traumatized a direct response to Christina, aka Alicia Christina? Like, is it a direct response? Is it Banks's way of telling his side of the story, like the side of a man who may have felt like a villain in someone else's story, but is still haunted by his own pain? Or is it deflection, like a way to shift the conversation back to his own wounds without ever fully taking accountability? Well, whatever it is, it seems personal, right? It's layered, there's hidden stories there, and it's raising even more questions about what really happened behind the scenes.
Listen, this is what people need to understand about me. Just because I speak about a topic that I've been through or that hurt me, and you may be the villain in that part of my story, don't feel like I still have an issue with you or I hate you or anything like that. I forgive you. I've moved on. But a part of me moving on is me speaking my truth about certain traumas that happened to me that I had to endure and face and get through. That was not normal. And regardless if you want to take accountability or not for the part that you... So I've been really like minding my business or whatever, like trying to focus on myself and get my life back in order and just, transitioning, just getting used to being a single woman again, and opening myself up to the idea of eventually dating. What I realize is it's always easy to forgive someone or to try to come back in someone's life that you know has been nothing but good to you. The challenge is forgiving those who has went out their way to destroy you, sabotage you, hurt you, manipulate you, abuse you, deliberately be mean to you, stop you from your destiny, energetically steal from you, sleep with your man, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, just do so many grimy things to you, and then people want to come back to you to be friends or want forgiveness because they realize that when they were around you, they were their best self. When they were around you, you spoke life into them, you took care of them, you nurtured them, you loved them, you treated them like family.
He kind of sounds a little defensive, maybe hurt, maybe even resentful. He could also be feeling guilty. To me, it just sounds like another couple who's going through their problems. There may be a lot of arguing, a lot of disconnect, a lot of brushing things under the rug, one expressing their feelings and the other not reciprocating their feelings, whichever side that may be. But it's just typical BS relationship feuds, you know what I'm saying? Now, before we end this, I just want to say this. To Lloyd Banks' baby mama, I hope that you find peace after all this and not just on some platform, because healing doesn't always come from exposing someone's life. Sometimes it comes from finally choosing yourself. Try to stop playing the blame game and try to take some accountability for yourself and your own actions. And as far as this relationship goes with Lloyd Banks, I'm sure this whole falling out wasn't just a one-sided thing. We, the viewers, are only on the outside looking in, and unfortunately, we're too quick to choose a side without fully seeing it from both perspectives. Remember, there's always two sides to a story, and then there's the truth. Now, more recently, it looks like things have been going well between the two, because Christina posted on her Instagram story that Banks made her some crab cakes. Now, she joked in the caption and said she's not sure if it's safe to eat, but the fact that he cooked it for you, I mean, maybe it's an apology. I don't know. But, you know, Banks out here making crab cakes. I see why he kind of looking a little thick lately. Like he probably over there cooking up a storm or whatever. I mean, crab cakes are not hard to cook, but we don't know what else he probably been cooking. But he definitely looked like he been eating, okay? Banks looking a little thick lately. I mean, it's all good, you know what I'm saying? But it's a good, healthy thick. Anyways, to anyone watching this who might be in a similar situation where the love feels one-sided, where emotional support is non-existent, or where you're being kept in the shadows, just know that silence is a form of mistreat, and love should never make you question your worth, and your story doesn't end with how someone else failed to love you. So, with that being said, what do y'all think? Do you think that Lloyd Banks is starting to come to terms with his past in his music through his words? You know, the best way he knows how? Or did he just carefully craft a response to protect his own image? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And on that note, that's it for now. I'm Annie, and it was nice talking to you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next video.